It's terrific to be amongst patriots. I understand that there have been a slew of magnificent speakers that have graced you with their presence. And if Sovereign Nations was able to offer this up in its inaugural year, then I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next year and with all of the years following that. My journey to be here with you today is an interesting one. When I was 16 months old, I was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma, which is a very rare form of childhood cancer. And my mum and dad were told that I had just a 5% chance of life, that only 1 in 20 children, 1 in 20 babies, 1 in 20 infants with stage 4 neuroblastoma survive. For 3 years, I underwent chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and an operation. And through the healing hands of God, our master physician, I defied the odds and I lived. The instincts of an American doctor were crucial to my survival. For months, my parents had brought me to doctor after doctor, pediatrician after pediatrician, but nobody could tell them what was wrong. And one night, with me even more unsettled than usual, they headed to the emergency ward of the local children's hospital. And the ward was almost deserted, but there was one overnight doctor there, a young man, and he looked me over and he said, "Look, I can't be sure, but I think I might have seen this before. I think this is what your child has, and you need to make sure that you get him in for tests the first thing tomorrow morning." And sure enough, he was right. So that was an American doctor that was fresh out of college, just doing his summer residency in Sydney, Australia in December of 1985. So I'm fond of saying that I haven't only studied American exceptionalism, I've lived it. In fact, I'm alive because of it. Since that early adversity, I have been pretty much unstoppable. I was the valedictorian of my school. I was publicly elected to political office at the age of 19, becoming one of the youngest ever elected councilmen in Sydney, Australia. 8 days after my 21st birthday, I became the youngest deputy mayor in Australian history in Sydney, a record which still stands to this day. In the first election I ever voted in, I voted for myself. It's all been downhill since then. I was a best-selling author before I turned the age of 30. I'm a Fox News commentator, and I've given speeches right around the world. I am recognised as an authority on American exceptionalism. In fact, I have decided to dedicate my life to promoting, protecting, and perpetuating what I believe to be the greatest idea ever, the American idea. To top all of that off, on the 29th of July 2016, a mere 15 months ago, after 4.5 long, torturous and arduous years, and close to $50,000 later, I finally legally immigrated to the United States of America. I am an American. Gives me a very unique trifecta. I am Australian by birth, Texan by appointment, thank you Governor Rick Perry, and American by choice. So what is it that I believe in? Well, I believe in God, personal responsibility, the sanctity of human life, limited government, free markets, the right to bear arms, a strong national defence, the state of Israel. Up there with all of those things, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in the United States of America. And I want you to know something. If there's only one take-home message from my presentation to you this morning, I want it to be this. I want you to know this as you rest your heads on your pillows tonight, that despite all of the undeniable, indisputable, and incontrovertible problems that exist in America today, this is still, by far and away, easily, hands down, head and shoulders, the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the best country in the world to be born in. This is the best country in the world to live in. This is the best country in the world to start a business in. This is the best country in the world to work in. Every single time I speak before an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school, I tell those students that the day that they were born in the United States of America is the day that they won the lottery of life. And they got the most incredible, the most amazing, the most remarkable, the most sensational head start conceivable on anyone and everyone everywhere else. This is the only country in the world where you can blaze a trail and leave a legacy. This is the only country in the world where you can colour outside of the lines and not be punished. This is the only country in the world where success is not yet resented but still admired and aspired to. This is the only country in the world where you can fall down 5,000 times and get up 5,001 if you've got the grit, the determination, and the hustle. This is the only country in the world where you can go bankrupt 4 times and become president of the United States of America. This is the only country in the world where personality is yet to be downsized. See, America is special because America is not just a country, not simply a stretch of land, not merely a geographic entity. America is an idea. It is an ideal. It is a value system. It is an improbable and daring experiment that remains just as improbable and daring today. It's the shot that was heard around the world and still is. There are 4 ways that a nation is said to be exceptional: culturally, militarily, economically, and scientifically. And on each of those 4 measurements, in almost 5,000 years of recorded human history, in almost 5,000 years of recorded human history, with less than 5% of the world's population, with less than 5% of the world's population, America has dominated those 4 spheres to an extent previously considered impossible. But none of that success, none of that prosperity, none of that power, none of that wealth, none of that exceptionalism just happened. None of it was incidental. None of it was accidental. No, all of it was very deliberate. It was extraordinarily intentional. You see, the most brilliant men, the most prescient men to have ever walked this earth were our founders, who understood that the way to unlocking human ingenuity, the way to unraveling human creativity, was to make sure that men and women were as unencumbered as possible by the need for government approvals and red tape. It's for precisely the same reason that America has ascended to the position of guardian of liberty, as the custodian of civilization. I want you to contemplate for just a fleeting moment what the world might look like without the United States of America. North Korea would invade South Korea. Taiwan would be overrun by China. War, maybe nuclear, would break out in the Middle East. Islamic terrorists would act with complete impunity. Tyrants in North Africa would run around even more mercilessly than what they already do. Russia would attempt to rebuild the Soviet Empire. Cataclysmic natural disasters would have no concerted, coordinated response effort. Individual liberty would gradually diminish and ultimately become extinct. The world would be covered in a biblical-style, cavernous darkness. Now, that's not my hypothesis after a few too many brews at the Trump Hotel. They are very realistic possibilities. And in fact, we were living that reality real time up until just 11 months ago, when we had elites at the highest levels of the federal government that were insistent on ensuring that America relinquished its traditional role of leading from the front and decided to lead from behind. And as a result, the world that we live in today is infinitely more dangerous than what we can remember for a very, very long period of time. What is good for America is good for the world. The world's fortunes travel with the United States. When America is strong, the world is strong. When America is weak, the world is a weak and dangerous place. And that's why it's in the interest of everyone, no matter who you are, where you were born, what you do for work, where your parents came from, which of the 57 new different genders you identify with, what bathroom you want to use. It is in the interest of everyone, even if you have never so much as even set your little toe on American soil. It's in your interests that America be a robust, assertive and self-confident country, because that is the best defense against evil and tyranny, whether it's in the socialist form or in the Islamist form. But political correctness is killing the United States of America. Chris gave a wonderful presentation and spoke about political correctness. And let me just add to that. Let me explain to you the magnitude of political correctness. Most people think that political correctness is merely an imposition on speech, simply something that tells you what you can say and what you can't say. Well, that would be egregious enough with our proud tradition of the First Amendment. But I'm here to tell you, particularly as someone that was a spectator to the United States for the first 32 years of my life, let me tell you with regret rich in my voice that political correctness is infinitely more than that. Political correctness is a way of life. It is a mentality. It is a cultural mindset. It is an attitude that says that you should strive for mediocrity and not greatness. That you shouldn't colour outside of the lines lest you be punished. That life and success and achievement should be measured by how much butt you can kiss as opposed to how much butt you can kick. What could be more un-American and anti-American than that? Political correctness is an intellectual tyranny. It is a totalitarian ideology that strips us of our individualism, eliminates our patriotism, removes our confidence. And political correctness is turning the American dream into the European nightmare. And why would we want to follow the trajectory of Europe? Let us just cast our eyes momentarily over the once great nations of Europe. Nations that are moribund, boring, pedestrian, vanilla. There's no passion, there are no dreams, there's no hunger, there's nothing. Moral clarity is conspicuously absent. Good and evil have merged into this one big nice hodgepodge where nothing is good and nothing is evil, where churches are routinely being transformed into nightclubs. Why would we want to follow that trajectory? Why would we want to embrace a model that is collapsing before our very eyes? Where even 13 years ago in 2004, the most common baby name was Muhammad in various Scandinavian countries. And that was 13 years ago. Why on earth would we want that? That's not the future that we want for the United States of America. That's not the future that we want for our children, for our grandchildren, for their great-great-great-great-grandchildren. And that's certainly not the future that our founders had envisioned for us. And that's why we have got to do everything that we possibly can to crush political correctness. All of this is very personal to me. I came to the United States of America to make, not take, to give, not receive, to join the place, not change it. I came to America because I knew that this was the greatest country in the history of the world, and that it provided opportunities and possibilities to me that nowhere else could provide. I came to the United States of America because I believe it affords me the most freedom possible to achieve the dreams that God put in my heart. And I came to the United States of America to make sure that America doesn't turn out like the country I felt I had to leave. There is a war on the United States of America. In the last 60 years, a culture war has raged in this country, but only one side has been fighting it. And they fought it with violence, the threat of violence, the hostile takeovers of universities, and outright lies. While this war has been raging, they have been governed only by two things: the rules of Saul Alinsky and the rules of the Chicago mob. And while all of this has happened, we nice conservatives have prized collegiality and dignity and propriety and sought the higher plane again and again and again. Who could be more collegial than John McCain? Who could be more dignified than Mitt Romney? And yet every single time we lost. Here's the good news. For the first time, we have our first wartime president in the culture war, in President Donald Trump. And he does not let the left get away with anything. His approach is the one play that the left's playbook has no answer for. But politics is one thing. The White House is one thing. There's only one thing more powerful than politics, and that's culture. You can rack up all the political victories that you want, but unless you can win the culture war, unless you can win the hearts and minds of regular, everyday, ordinary people, those political victories mean absolutely nothing. Culture always trumps politics. And the real fight, the real battle, the real struggle, the real war is the culture war. And it's the war that I've decided to dedicate myself to, because it's the one that I think can have the greatest impact and effect possible. It's why I set up an organisation called FLAG, the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. FLAG goes into elementary, middle and public high schools, talking to students about what makes America special, what makes America different, why is the Constitution the best political document ever written, what would the world look like today had it not been for American leadership in the 20th century, what would the world look like in the future if there was no America, what all has the United States given the world, why has it been an unparalleled force for good. In doing so, we seek to counter the army of anti-American activists masquerading as teachers, deliberately and recklessly raising a generation of Americans to be at best ambivalent, if not worse, overtly and outwardly hostile to their own country of birth or residence. A country, a society, much like any human being, needs a why and a how to survive. In so many ways, we have lost our why and our how. I'm often asked to identify what I believe to be the greatest threat facing the United States of America. And that's a difficult question to answer. But this is the conclusion that I always come to. For several generations now, we have not passed on what it means to be an American. We have not taught Americanism. And as a result, we have entire generations of young Americans that do not have the faintest or foggiest idea of what constitutes being an American. You see, America is complex, but American exceptionalism is really, really simple. It's individualism, not collectivism. Patriotism, not relativism. God, not government. Faith, not secularism. It's equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. It's e pluribus unum, not radical multiculturalism. Life, not death. It's about being bold, not being bland. These are the things that have always differentiated the United States of America from every other polity on this earth. And yet political correctness and her proponents and advocates would seek to eliminate every single one of those points of differentiation, rendering America just another country, just another place, destroying the American idea. I want young Americans to be burning for the United States of America. I want them to know that the day that they were born here is the day that they won the lottery of life. I want them to know that there is nothing that stands in their way from achieving their goals except themselves. I want to make sure that the children of today, who will be the leaders of America tomorrow, are filled with patriotic pride and civics knowledge. In the last 15 months, I personally have visited 40 public schools and reached more than 5,000 students. And I can tell you that it is an absolute tragedy what is going on and unfolding in our schools. It defies belief. Our children have absolutely no idea what's in the Constitution, what's in the Declaration of Independence. When I explain to them that the United States Constitution is the only document of its kind that sets out the powers of the individual and the limits of the government, and that every single time any other constitution in any other country has been attempted, it always sets out the powers of the government and the limits of the individual. Their eyes go so wide and so big, it's incredible. They've got no idea. When I ask them to tell me who invented the internet and emails and GPS, they have no idea that it was the United States military. It is an absolute tragedy what we're experiencing. And that's why Flag has decided to do something about it. And I'm proud to say to you that we are one of the fastest growing non-profits in America today. We are kicking extraordinary leftist butt. And we have just launched, just 3 weeks ago on Constitution Day, the world's first kid-friendly constitution. It has never, ever been done before. We launched it with a 3-hour event live on Fox News. And I'm proud to say that in just 3 weeks, our kid-friendly constitution, of which we worked with interns from the late Justice Antonin Scalia's office, we worked with them to produce the United States Constitution into simple, easy to understand English that even a 5th grader can comprehend. And I'm proud to say that in the last 3 weeks since its launch, this Constitution is in the hands of more than 12,000 students in all 50 states. And we are on track to have this Constitution in the hands of more than 100,000 students by the end of next spring. When Flag goes into schools, we offer 3 courses. The first is The Road to 1787. That's our founding documents course, where we have our kid-friendly Declaration of Independence and soon our kid-friendly Constitution and soon our kid-friendly Declaration of Independence. Closely following that will be selected readings of the Federalist Papers, because we want our children tethered to the virtues and values contained within those documents, because we know that America's continued success is predicated on those virtues and values, the same ones that catapulted America to the pinnacle nation on this earth. Our second course is called Entrepreneurship 101. I want American children to innovate. I want them to start businesses. I hate this idea that they are fed from the moment they walk through the gates of their elementary school on their very first day. They're told that they have to go to college. College is a wonderful place. I had the best years of my life there. I earned 2 degrees, undergrad, postgrad. I'm a retired academic as well. But college is not for everyone. We need plumbers, we need electricians, we need trade schools. So I go and get some of the most successful self-made people that I possibly can, and I put them in front of these students, explaining to these students that this is the best country in the world to start a business in. And our third course is called Chasing the American Dream, an Immigrant's Perspective. There is no narrative that upsets me more deeply than this idea that America is a racist place, that it is a prejudiced place, that it is a bigoted place. This is the best country in the world for anyone to live. Whatever your colour, whatever your persuasion, whatever your ethnic heritage. And so to push back against this narrative that we're fed by fake news, by all of these Marxist cultural institutions, all of these celebrities on Twitter, all of these NFL players, I go and get the most successful immigrants I possibly can to go and speak to children and explain to them, had I stayed where I was, I would never have been able to achieve what I went on to achieve. This is the most colourblind society in the world. This is the least racist, multiracial country in the world. That's how we reach them. Also, by the 14th of June next year, by Flag Day 2018, Flag will have gathered more than 1,000 signatures, 1,000 schools signing up to our Flag Pledge. What is our Flag Pledge? Well, it's very simple. There are 3 things that we ask a school to commit to. Number 1, that they display an American flag in every classroom. Number 2, that the Pledge of Allegiance is recited every morning. And number 3, that before all major sporting events, the Star-Spangled Banner is sung. 3 things that should happen in any event, but they're not. And that's why we are making sure that we're getting schools to commit to that. Schools that won't commit to that, well, I've always had a very simple philosophy. If you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat. And that's what we're going to do. If you're not prepared to fly a flag in a classroom, say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, sing the national anthem before a sporting event at school, then I think that the parents, the teachers, and the wider community need to know that about your school. The only way, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to win this fight, the only way that we are going to win this culture war is if we use the tactics of the left back against them. It's the only way we can do it. And we have to do it. Because let me tell you, the rest of the world is way too far gone. This right here is freedom's Colosseum. Freedom will live or freedom will perish right here in the United States of America. And the pages of history will reflect the actions that we determine to take now. We have to do this. We need an army of regular, everyday, ordinary, hard-working American men and women who are patriots, who are dedicated to family, flag, faith, and neighbourhood. I have every belief. I'm unswervingly convinced that we can do it because I've been a student of American history my entire life. And if you go and have a look from the early defeats by Britain in the War of Independence, to the loss of the Philippines, to Pearl Harbor, to the days following September 11, every single time America has been under attack, every single time freedom has been shoved up against a corner wall in a room, America has emerged bigger and stronger and better than ever before. But this is a really tough one because America celebrated her 241st birthday just 3 months ago. If you go and ask any historian worth their salt how long great nations tend to last, they will tell you somewhere between 230 and 270 years. That puts America right in the kill zone. And for the first time, the enemies of the United States are no longer only foreign, they are also domestic. And that's why the fight that we're going to have is going to be worse than any that we've been through before. We are going to need to summon every ounce of patriotism from the bottom of our souls to the tops of our heads. But we can do it, and we have to do it. We must do it because the rest of the world's civilization depends on it. Only America can crush political correctness. Only America can defeat Islamism. Only America can destroy socialism. We need to make sure that America is as healthy and as robust as possible. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you, and God bless the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States of America.